How's it going, everybody? It's your world champion here, and we are back with another volume discussion on Mushoku Tensei. I finished Volume 4's audiobook a little while ago. Apologies for the tardiness in this video. Things kind of got very busy very quickly, but don't worry. After this one and after I do Volume 5, we'll be right on track with getting these videos out. But let's just kind of dive right in to Volume 4, and I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm not going to have much to really comment on, except for when we get to Chapter 4. Because this volume, I'm not going to lie, Volume 4 was kind of hard to get through at certain points. And it's not that, there were slow parts, yes, which is fine, whatever, some world building and all that, but, there was one chapter in particular, and especially Rudy at a lot of places, and I'm just like, Rudy, why? I understand the person you are. I understand you still got some growth in you. But Rudy, or mainly 34-year-old old dude inside of this Rudy and all that. Let's go into it. Chapter 1, basically, we're here. We're going to be going to the Millis continent. We're here at Windport now. And Rudy, he's 11, and Dead End, they've all, again, we're here at Windport, and they're trying to get to the Millis continent. Now, they go to the Adventurers Guild, they register there, get all the information they need, and they find out that it's going to take a lot of money to get Ruijerd into the Millis continent, and this leaves them at a standstill, because it's like, okay, well, we could do some jobs here, but by the time we get all the money we need, another year is probably going to pass by, and we don't know how everything is at the Fittoa region and all of that. We don't know how everybody is. Dead End is basically trying to figure out, okay, what can we do in order to get to the Millis continent in a decent amount of time? And around this time, we find out that Dead End, each one of them ended up getting a nickname. So we have Mad Dog Eris, we have Guard Dog Ruijerd, and Kennel Master Ruijerd. Which Rudy, he doesn't mind being the bad guy to a point, but he was kind of hoping for a better nickname than Kennel Master, because it's like, oh, he's not really much of a threat, but he kind of gets this bad reputation about himself, and it kind of sucks because he's using Ruijerd's name as well for it, so it's not that good and all that. So the whole problem here is, how do we get Ruijerd into the Millis continent without paying so much money? And they kind of come to the conclusion that okay, maybe I just need to sell something and all that. And before all that, Rudy ends up having another dream where the man god visits him and all that, and the man god basically says, hey, look, maybe just go out into town by yourself, go get some food, maybe walk down some alleyways, maybe something will come up to you. And Rudy, he doesn't want to follow the man god's ways. He doesn't want to follow his path and all that. He wants to create his own and all that. He doesn't want to be the man god's pawn. But again, he kind of just follows along just to see what happens. And he ends up meeting up with the former empress of the demon continent, Kishirika Kishirisu. Now, the anime kind of glossed over a lot of what happens here, mainly with what happens with the eyes and all that. But basically, Rudy saves her from being taken by these guys and all that. And so she wants to reward Rudy for all that. And they kind of go back and forth. He's like, all right, well, how about your body and all that? And she's like, well, I mean, sure, fine, whatever. He asked for half the world. She's like, well, I don't have that. It's only stuff that she is able to do. And we find out that she's able to give him a demon eye and all that. Now we go through different demon eyes and all that. There's ones where Rudy will know whatever he sees. So if he sees let's say the chair and all that, he can use his demon eye to be okay, that chair was made in 1947 and it was made from this material and all that stuff. But the downside to that is it's only knowledge that Kishirika knows and all that. And so there's a few other ones as well, but the one he ends up with is the Eye of Foresight, which is basically like the Sharingan, if we're being honest here. He's able to see movements and like basically see a little bit ahead into the future.
I can see the future!
He's able to see at least like 1 to 3 seconds into the future after using this for a week and after like practicing with it. And I mean, he talks with Rudy and Eris about it, like, yeah, I got this new power. I'm not gonna really use it a lot because it's gonna drain a lot of mana, but yeah, he trains with it. And he it's funny, he has this sparring match with Eris, and because she's like super confident, she had just defeated Rudy in a sparring match, so she's feeling great, she's feeling on top of the world. And then Rudy comes in with this demon given power and just no diffs Eris, and it's just like, oh well, all my hard work was for naught now. And Rudy knows that he can't really use the eye on Rouge because, again, experience and all that. As the night goes on, as the day goes on, we still don't know how we're gonna get Rouge into the Millis continent, because like, yeah, they could pay his way in, but who's to say that the boatmaster won't hike up the price even if they did have the money after what, a year of saving and all that. And so it kind of comes to the conclusion where Rudy's just like, I just need to sell my staff. Like, I just need to go do that. I'll just bite that bullet. And Rudy actually stops him. He's like, hey, no, what are you doing? That staff is precious to you. You know, just like the necklace you let me wear to pretend I was a McGurd. No, you're not going to sell that thing. They end up coming to the conclusion that, okay, you know what, Rudy, the only other way is to find a smuggler. And I know that's something against your own wishes, something against your honor and all that, but like, Rudy's just like, look, if it means I get to continue on this journey to get you guys home safely, I'll push that aside just so we can get over into the Millis continent. And it's kind of funny because like, after he says that, they meet up with this guy named Gallus Cleaner, and who offers them a safe passage. Now, this guy Gallus, he met up with Rudy earlier in the day, and Rudy saved him from like a potted plant falling on him and all that because of the demon eye and all that. And so it's kind of cool how, like, you know, we have, this is part of that great world building that Mushoku Tensei has, where it's like, okay, something happens and it leads into something even better happening. So, you know, paying it forward and all that stuff. So yeah, they got this guy who's going to take them across into the Millis continent. The only thing is, when they get over there, they have to do a job for him, which is basically saving these people from being slaves and all that. Cool, neat, awesome. We got our way into the Millis continent. Now we get a side story here with Roxy. So the last time we saw her, she was in the Fittoa region, and she had seen the post from Paul about, you know, finding the family and all that, and she ends up here in Windport because she's gonna actually go into the demon continent to try to find Rudy and everybody. And she actually has a couple people with her. She has Talhand and Elena Lise, who apparently were part of Paul and Zenith's former party, which is really cool. We're meeting some of the other party members. Great, awesome, fantastic. And like, we get some fun moments with them, mainly Elena Lise, because like, and I like how the novel kind of sets her thing up too. The anime kind of did this as well, but like, Elena Lise, she likes the company of men, let's say. There's a couple moments too where she like has the company of multiple men at the same time, but like, we find out what her deal is later on. Again, I have season 2 knowledge, so I know what most of that is and everything. But yeah, this is basically them in Windport. Roxy's trying to, you know, get some information and all that. She actually ends up like finding out something about like Dead End, and she kind of knows about Dead End too. And she ends up running into Eris and Rudy as they're training. She kind of like, she's a little put off by Rudy because of his, you know, overall demeanor and all that. And he like turns around and it just scares her shitless to the point where she just like runs away and all that. So what sucks, because like, you're literally right there with Rudy. You're in the same town and you didn't meet up with him because like, she Elena Lise and Talhand just leave Windport after that, which sucks because like, you were right there. You could have met up with each other and everything would have been fine. Damn it. whatever, that's besides the point. Chapter 4. Okay, all right, we're gonna this is the part of the audiobook of the light novel that was kind of hard for me to get through because they're on this boat, okay? And Rudy, he's already thinking like, oh, things are gonna be great on this boat. Maybe we'll run into a tentacle monster like a squid, and they'll take Eris and like do the devious things. Because I've seen a lot of hentai, and it's like, dude, she is 13 years old. It's one thing if Rudy was actually like 11, like actually his age mentally. That would be one thing. Because fine, whatever, kids, hormones, whatever. I mean, he could be going through hormonal stuff again. But mentally, he's in his 40s. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It was hard, and I get it. I understand. It's part of his character. It's part of his growth going forward. I get that. I understand that. Don't worry about that. It's the fact that you still have to get through it, though. Like, you still have to get through those moments in order to get to those big character moments. But one thing I do want to highlight from Chapter 4, besides, Rudy, he's having to take care of Eris the whole time, like, constantly using healing magic on her because she's seasick and all that. But, like, one thing I do want to acknowledge from this chapter is Rudy acknowledging that Dead End, they don't really have great teamwork. Because, like, you have this S-rank group of adventurers who are basically the bodyguards for the boat, and you find out that they kind of own, like, they're basically like a company that take on these quests. Like, they basically monopolize those quests for travel and all that, and that's basically what they do for a living. But like, a lot of the people that are in the group, they're not really that strong. They're not that powerful. I mean, Rudy even mentions, like, I could probably take on, like, one or two of these guys. But their S rank doesn't come from their individuality of, like, their own individual strengths. It comes from their teamwork. And Rudy's just like, man, their teamwork is really good. Like, they disposed of this A rank monster fairly quickly and all that. So that was cool and all that. But again, like, Chapter 4, just, Rudy, chill. Like, it was like half the chapter was him just detailing what was going to happen to Eris if they ran into like a squid on there or something. But whatever. Chapter 5 rolls around, and we finally start kind of picking up the pace with a lot of things. So Rudy goes to the inn to kind of drop some of his stuff off, and he goes to get Rudy from where he's being held, because they kind of transported him as a slave. But Rudy had to just go to the place where Rudy was being held and get him from there. And Rudy, he is livid. And we find out that, like, these slaves that they have to free and all that are beast folk children. And that has Rudy, again, very pissed off. So he basically asks Rudy, he's like, hey, Rudy, I can't forgive these guys. I just cannot. Like, we need to save these kids, and I need to murder. And so Rudy's just like, okay, you know what? Fine. Just don't leave a single one of them alive. And Rudy does that. And then Rudy goes to free the beast folk children. And again, we get some moments here with Rudy just being a perv. And it's like, okay, again, I get it. It's just like, these are kids, but whatever. And they all leave and all that, heading back to the inn. Rudy, like, gets them some tapestry from around the place and all that. And one of the kids talking to Rudy is just like, wait, did you get our dog? There was a dog. There was like a sacred beast down there that we need to bring back to our village. So Rudy goes back by himself to free this thing. And like, this giant dog is licking his face, a typical dog kind of thing. But then we get the beast folk men coming in and being like, hey, what are you doing to our beast? Like, our sacred beast, our sacred animal. Like, you're aroused. Which is funny, because, like, you start learning that beast folk can smell arousal and all that. So, like, they think that Rudy wants to just bone this dog, their sacred animal and all that. It's just like, dude, no, it's licking my face. And, like, I'm happy because I like dogs, but, like, not like that. And they end up arresting Rudy and taking him to the Doldia village. And this is when we get probably my favorite introduction of a chapter, and even an episode, because like, the anime even did this as well, with like the free apartment and all that, where Rudy just is basically like, yeah, I have a new apartment now, everything's great, free rent, I have this nice bucket. Like, the way he's describing his jail cell right now is so positive. it's so funny too. It's because it's in an ironic way too, but like it's just really funny. And like, they stripped him naked, threw water on him, all that. And like, there's this one woman that like keeps feeding him and all that, like giving him decent food. Like, they're treating him well because like they listened to him when he was talking to them, and he's trying to say, look, I had nothing to do with these children and all that. They're just waiting for the rest of the beast folk that went with them to get these kids to come back, so that way they can figure out if Rudy was telling the truth. And in this time, Rudy gets a new roommate known as Geese. Now, Geese, I don't know if Rudy finds this out either. I have season 2 knowledge, or even more of season 1 knowledge as well, because Geese is actually one of another member of Paul's former party. So that's cool. He's meeting Paul's kid and all that, and like, we get to hear later on down the road like how Geese recognized that it was Paul's kid just by the way Rudy was talking and acting and all that. So Rudy he acts like the bigger man in the jail cell, kind of like talking down to Geese, and like basically makes Geese his apprentice and all that, or like second in command, whatever. He's basically an underling to Rudy. About a week goes by, and Rudy's like, why isn't Rouger here? Like, what? He should be here by now. And, same with these beast folk people. Like, it didn't take us that long to get here after they arrested me. While he's thinking about all this, the village is on fire. And so Rudy then like breaks out of jail, because it was easy for him to break out anyways. He just decided not to, out of respect for the beast folk, because hey, he didn't want to start any trouble and all that. So him and Geese are actually helping out the beast folk, and we find out that the people attacking the village was Gallus, is the guy that brought them over there from smuggling. And we find out there's like a bigger organization happening where like they kidnap beast folk and then they like set them free, but then like kidnap them again. Like, there's a whole like organization doing all this. And Rudy, he's like, oh, this is not good. So they actually have a fight. Rudy gets help from Geese and like some of the other beast folk and all that, and they do end up defeating Gallus and like sending him on his way and all that. And that chapter alone, like this chapter right here with chapter 8, was really good, just like going into like how Rudy is now in a battle and all that. But much like the giant like A-rank monster that they fought in the Demon Continent, Rudy's on the defensive a lot. Like, he's not able to get a lot of offense in unless he had help from, which he does have help from, Geese and the Sacred Beast and all that. So again, they end up beating Gallus. He goes and fucks off, and that's when Ruijerd and company end up getting back into the village, and we find out that Ruijerd had been helping the beast folk while Rudy was in jail. And so they were actually going into the organizations themselves and defeating those guys and like freeing these slaves and all that, and like trying to get these beast folk back home and all that. So that's basically where they end off. And like going into chapter 9, we had the village elder Gustav basically suggesting, hey, the rainy season's coming in and it's gonna be horrible for travel. You guys might as well just stay here for the next 3 months, which they do. So we get some nice downtime with the Doldia village. Like, Eris meets new friends. I mean, granted, they have a fight at the end because they're leaving, but that's besides the point, whatever. We find out that Ghislaine was from this village, and she was a bit of a troublemaker. They basically like kicked her out and that's how she became like an adventurer, and like eventually ended up with Eris. And I think the biggest thing too from all of this is the fact that like Eris and Rudy both like are yelling at these beast folk, being like, yeah, Ghislaine has grown since you guys saw her. Like, yeah, the last time you guys saw her, she was like a kind of a pain in the ass, but like now she's actually kind of a respectable warrior and all that. Like, she's a sword god and all that, and she's learning magic, she's learning arithmetic. Like, she's actually becoming a good person, and it kind of warms up the hearts of the beast folk a little bit, because it's like, okay, we know now that our sister, or our aunt or whatever, she's doing well for herself. So that was cool. And like, there's some other moments too with like Rudy trying to like spy on some of the women. Again, I get it, I get it, but come on, Rudy. And we even have Rudy bonding with Gustav about like their good old days, or like, you know, during demon fights and demon wars and everything. We get to chapter 10, you know, after everybody had said goodbye and we're heading back to the Millis continent. Geese is with us for a bit, and we get a couple things too here, where like Geese refusing to teach Eris how to cook. And this is where we start getting the hints of, oh, he was part of Paul's party, and, you know, because he taught Zenith how to cook, she ended up marrying Paul, and it led to the party breaking up. And basically Geese not having a reason to adventure, really, because like he can't do anything on his own, and he tried to join other parties and all that, and that didn't really work out well for him. Yeah, and we also get like another little bit of lore, bit of world building here with just the overall world of Mushoku Tensei, where like we run into these statues of what they call the 7 great powers. So there's like these statues of the technique god, the dragon god, the fighting god, demon god, death god, sword god, and north god. And apparently a lot of adventurers and a lot of people like aspire to be one of these gods and all that. And the cool thing about this too is like these statues were made from magic, and so if there ever becomes like a new dragon god, for example, the statue will change, and like the name will change of who's representing that statue and all that. And so that's really cool. That's a neat little bit of world building and all that. But that basically ends the whole like part of the novel that has to deal with Rudy and company and all that. We get an extra chapter though that follows the story of Fitz, a young man who takes up the role of Ariel's magician bodyguard. So we're going back to like this Ariel girl who you basically find out that this white-haired person, this white-haired boy is Ariel's new bodyguard. So they're disguising her as a boy. Now I know who this is because again, season 2 knowledge and all that. But yeah, basically Fitz often is dreaming of falling from the sky and all that. So like they're just reflecting on how they got to Ariel's place and everything. And Ariel also begins to make moves to become queen. She kind of finally got her why of why I actually do want to. Because like in the other bonus chapter we got, she didn't want to be part of like this whole power struggle, this whole political thing. She just wanted to just be herself. But like after all that, and after her one bodyguard died, she decided, okay, I need to move forward. I need to do good in here. And like she's starting to like make those connections that her brothers were scared that she was gonna get. So I like that. I like how we're getting all of that and everything. Now while all of that's going on, her older brother Grabble, Darius, and a few others are plotting Ariel's assassination. And they use this like woman of the night, we'll say. They have this woman of the night, and she's gonna be the assassin and all that. And she's going to assassinate Ariel in her sleep. But unfortunately for her, it's the night where Ariel's just like, hey Fitz, why don't you stay in my room tonight? Why don't we just stay together? Now, Ariel, she's bi apparently, so cool, neat, awesome. She also kind of knows that Fitz is a girl, so there's that too as well. But yeah, this assassin tries to kill Ariel, and Fitz is luckily there to stop the attack and heal Ariel and herself from any damage or poison that they got. And they decide at that point that, okay, Ariel cannot stay in the castle, so what can we do? So they end up going to the University of Roa, which is cool because that was set up when Rudy was with Fitz back when they were children and all that. So it's like, okay, this is where I can meet up with Rudy again. So not only do we have that, but this is a good kind of ploy and cover for Ariel to be like, okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna study, and you know, just study abroad and all that. But really, again, it's so she can escape the castle and be away from all this political strife. But yeah, so they end up going to Roa, and we'll probably meet up with them when we get to the University of Magic and all that. But yeah, that was volume 4. You know, again, it was a bit of a slow volume, I'm not gonna lie, and a bit of a volume that kind of made me go, eh. But again, I understand with Rudy. I get that. completely. It's just, again, you got to get through it to get to the good character development. So I'm just gonna leave it off there. Mainly because I can't wait to talk about Volume 5, because Volume 5 has the meeting with Paul again, the reunion with Paul, and oh, the volume does justice. They do even more with Paul's reunion with Rudy and all that, like just seeing both perspectives and all that, but we'll get into that when we get into that. So yeah, leave a comment down below, let me know your thoughts on Volume 4. Again, I know I don't go into too much detail with all this, but that's just the nature of these reflection videos, if you will. So yeah, leave a comment down below, be sure to like the video if I entertained you in any way, shape, or form. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next volume release and any of my other wonderful, awesome content that is available on the channel. So as always, people, I've been your world champion, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya. I don't need you. Better